Welcome to the second episode of my free 3-part flash photography course. What are we going to learn in this second episode? We're going to learn how to flash with your camera and your flash separated off-camera flash. We're going to learn how to make flashy looking photos. You know those photos that looks really flashy? What a flash zoom is and how to create those cool party flash shots. Party shots? Not these kind of shots, you know, but the shots you make with your camera. So, if you know me, it's more about these kind of shots than the shots with your camera. If you want to skip everything I'm going to tell you right now and you want to straight go to the techniques, you can go to the chapters below and just skip my face and go to the chapters. If you watched the first episode of this course, I ask you to take flash photos and tag me on Instagram using the hashtag FlashyRoy. So the hashtag FlashyRoy. Well, we got a joke here that's called flash tag, but it's kind of funny. But if you use the hashtag FlashyRoy, then you can tag me on Instagram and I can see the photos, and the best photos I will use on a separate YouTube video. I'm gonna discuss those photos and give you tips how to make better photos, or maybe I'm gonna give you a lot of kudos because you made such a great photo. Who knows? All flash photography in this video is made with a Profoto flash. This is Profoto flash or Speedlite. This one isn't being produced anymore because it's old like me. But there's a new one on the market. It's called the Profoto A10, and believe me, there's no better flash or speedlight on the market than a Profoto. Also, other gear I use you can find in the description below. Also has like this Profoto flash. So if you're curious what I'm using, just check, because a lot of people ask what I use. Just check the video below and you will know what I use. Now it's time to start with number 2 of the flash course. Let's go! On versus off camera flash. So I think you know what it is, because the one is with the camera and flash together, and the other one is with the flash separated from your camera. We call it on or off camera flash. On camera flash, that's what we did in the first episode when your flash is on your camera. I'm using my old Canon Speedlite. It's actually still my backup flash, but I never needed it because this one always works, so knock on wood. When your flash is in the hot shoe of your camera, that's how it's called, the hot shoe. You plug it in the hot shoe, like this, your flash is on your camera. But if you want to separate your camera because you want a different direction of the light to make it more interesting, same thing as my studio lighting. So my studio lighting comes from the side, so this part is in the shadow, get light from that side, so my face gets a more three-dimensional look on the camera. If I would make it more straight, the light straight from there, it makes the image very flat, and you want some depth in your photo. So that's why we like to pull the flash off the camera. How can you do that? You can use a flash cable for it. It's very cheap. You can find it on Amazon. I will link it in the description below. Just a simple cable that you put on your camera, hot shoe, and the other part goes onto your flash, and you can pull them apart. They're still together with a cable, but you can make you probably buy something like a bracket to put it on, or you can hold it while flashing like this, flash, 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 to make a more interesting look. Especially when making party photos, it can be really great. But it's still a wire, and a wire can be quite annoying if you're photographing, because you need more than one hand to use the camera, because one-handed using like a camera I have is very heavy. So you also can go wireless. And wireless is just a system that there's no wires attached, it's just a wireless system. So I can put this is a flash module, a wireless flash module. This is from Godox. Godox is just simple stuff. I didn't use it for many years, but especially for this course I started using it, so I can show you guys in a second what you can do with it. But basically one part is on the camera, and you put it on the camera, and the other part goes onto the hot shoe of the flash. You pull them together, and this one sends a signal to that one, and you can flash by using no cables. So if you want to put a flash in a certain area of your the place you're photographing, it's ideal. But you guys probably are curious what the effect is and how I do it, so let's jump in the computer. I can show you some examples of what I've done with the off-camera flash.
The thing about photography, what you have to do is you have to learn to read a photo. If you can read a photo, you can make better photos yourself. So you see this photo, you can clearly see that there's a very hard, distinct shadow or eyes light up. So you can see it's a flash photo. And in this case, the flash comes from this way and makes a distinct shadow. So you can see it's a very unnatural look. I did this on purpose so you can show you that it's very unnatural because the sun is behind them. You can see here the sun coming from the back, a little bit golden hour vibe. So it's very unnatural. So when I take a photo that's like here, these are the same photos. I used the flash here on my camera, but what I did, I used it more like a fill light. So I filled it up with a little flash just to make it a little bit brighter, but not like if you see this photo, you're instantly not thinking, that's a strange sentence, but you don't think, oh, this is a flash photo, but it is, because their skin is too bright and the sun's coming, I've got sun straight from the back towards my camera, so normally it wouldn't work, but because I use a flash, like a fill light, it gets more attention. Same here. You can see clearly here that the sun comes from the back. I use my flash from my camera, just a little fill light straight from my camera, and it feels so natural. When you put your flash off camera, so from a different angle, you'll see that it's more unnatural. That's the effect that the off camera flash has. Unless you're shooting with the sun, but if you're shooting against the sun, it gives a natural look because there's a shadow that shouldn't be there. So if you see here, the sun's in the back, so there's no way shadow here, that's impossible. But that happens when you use a flash from a different direction. So it's a choice. So if you want to have that look, can be a very interesting look, go for it. But if you don't want it, don't do it. So how does it work? What do you do? So when you start shooting, you first have to think of what you want. Do you want the photo to look flashy or natural, or do you want to have that natural look? So if you go for a natural look, most of the times you want to put your flash on your camera, or you can take it off camera, but just you stand nearby the flash. Don't go too far from the flash, so it has a natural fill light. So in this case, this photo, flash is on my camera, but it's a little fill light and it fills it up. So what you do, first make a photo without the flash and just check out what the light is around the couple, and then you fill it up with a little flash. And the best thing to do to pump up your ISO a little bit so the couple is already visible in your photo, and just fill it up with a little flash. When you put the flash off camera, you probably want to have a very flashy looking photo. You want to show that flash, so then I would crank up the flash even more. I would use the same settings probably on my camera, and when I set the flash, I would make it a little bit more stronger, so it has a more stronger flash. So when you shoot in 180s, 100, it will be sharp. And then you can freeze something like this. Still, this is an off-camera flash. It doesn't look like that, but it is an off-camera flash, and you can see it by the. Yeah, it's very difficult to see, but it's an off-camera flash. If I grab, for instance, this photo is an on-camera flash. In this case, I've put in too much flash. It's not on purpose, but they were walking in the photo. So when they're walking, the distance from you till the flash changes. So if I would step back a little bit further, the flash gets a little bit softer. I don't mind in this photo because it's for you guys. It's not for the client. And the client actually, they liked the photo actually. So the thing is, just think in front of before start shooting, what do you want to do, and do that as a result of your photo.
Flashy photos are photos that you can see that the flash is being used in the photo. That's very important. So a lot of photographers want to hide the flash, so they want to make a photo, and we come to that, photos with a hidden flash. A lot of photographers want to make a photo where you use the flash in a way you don't see it, it's just very subtle. But you also got flashy photos. A flashy photos is a photo where the flash is very important. So the thing about flashy photos is that a lot of photographers do it wrong because they're going to overexpose their photos. But a flashy photo isn't about overexposing your photo. A flashy photo is showing you've used a flash. There's a different approach. Because if you overexpose a photo, you can do that without a flash. You can grab your camera, crank up your ISO, and you'll have a more bright photo. but you want to show people that you have a flashy photo. So very important on a flashy photo is the shadow. If you have a real hard shadow, and you see it's a flashy photo, especially when it's from a different direction instead of a lamp from above, but from a certain direction, especially from the camera, you'll see instantly, oh, this photo is flashed. That's what you want to create, especially in fashion photography or even in wedding photography. You can see it inside that people make more cool, flashy shots, even with couples wearing sunglasses. It's really cool. So the trick is to make sure you have a lot of shadow. Also turn up your ISO, so putting your flash in a certain way on your camera. You put it on your camera, you aim it at your couple. I wouldn't use diffusers. Well, it depends on, I would try it out, but normally you don't use a diffuser, you just aim it straight at your subject and you're gonna make a photo. But you make a photo that it isn't overexposed, because you make sure that everything is exposed right. If you don't have enough light on your subject, you can throw up your ISO to make it more brighter, but never overexpose the photos, because then it's not a great photo. So let's dive in the computer. I can show you what I did with the overexposed flashy photos, and I can show you how to do it yourself.
Some photos you will see more than once in my workshop because you can put them on different categories. So excuse me, but that's the way it works. I couldn't do like 20 photo shoots. It's a lot of work. Let's start with this one. It's a fashion photo I shot. This is a very flashy photo. I don't hide my flash here. So same as the previous chapter, before you start shooting, think of what you want to show in the photo. In this case, I've had a fashion shoot in an arcade. And arcade is quite flashy with all the lights and stuff, so I wanted to shoot very flashy. In this photo you can see there's clearly a flash focused on her. I don't mind, I think it's really cool. Even the reflections in the red, I don't mind. I like that hard reflection in this photo. So it's a typical flashy photo. Also, this is a very flashy photo. You can see on her cheekbones, the flash is bouncing off her. The parts that aren't in the flash are very dark because there's not enough light. I could pull it up in Lightroom and I could make it less flashy, but that's the vibe in this case I wanted to get from the photo. Same photo, so same effect of the photo you can see here. Also here I've chosen to go really hard on the flash, and you can see that it's very flashy because of the shadows. If everything would be filled in, it doesn't look flashy. So to make a flashy photo is not about overexposing, but it's about exposing or underexposing the shadows. So the shadows say that's a very flashy photo. Here an example. How do you make a flashy photo? So to make a flashy photo, first you make a base photo. In this case, it's a photo without flash. It's my assistant. She loves to be on the photo, as you can see. I use a high ISO, 3200, 25 millimeters, 2.8, 100 seconds. This is the photo. You can crank up the ISOs as you have learned in the first episode. Crank it up, it's very important. Then I shot a photo with the flash moved upwards. And you can see that she looks just, the lights has become better. Still the same settings, but the flash made the room brighten up and doesn't look very flashy. If I would pull this exposure down, you wouldn't exactly say it's a flash photo because the light's coming from above. In this case, it's a flashy photo. So how do you achieve a flashy photo? Aim your flash straight at your subject. I will put it on the camera, but you could do it off camera actually, the same thing. But in this case I put it on the camera, or you have to make sure that the flash makes a shadow. You can see the shadow. In this case it was a corner, so you can see a hard shadow and this looks just flashy. Well, this is a very boring setting, but imagine she being in special clothing, standing for a white wall and then shooting. It makes a very, very cool effect. So the flashy photo is all about control of the lights. No overexposing, just crank up your ISO like here and make a flash that makes a shadow. It's all in the shadows, not in the brightness. Remember that, because I can pull up the brightness like this if I want to, but I want to keep that detail in her skin. That's very important.
Zoom function of your flash. So maybe you've seen it, maybe you never really seen it, but your flash has a zoom function. And if you never saw it, then it's like very new for you, but if you did see it and you were asking yourself, what is it? It's the zoom function of your flash. But what does it do? So first of all, if I grab my Canon flash, it will show the zoom function in millimeters. So 28 millimeters up to 105 millimeters. If you grab a Profoto flash, it does it differently. Of course, Profoto does everything differently. It doesn't show millimeters, but it shows a symbol. And the symbol, and that's very important because it's way more logic. The symbol is like this, or wider, or even wider than this. And it says, I'm going to flash wide or more narrow. So what does it do? Because maybe you already guessed it, it's just zooming. If you have a wide lens, like a 28 millimeters, the lens is looking very wide, so you want to make the flash as wide as possible. But if you use a 105 millimeter lens, it does more like this. It's a zoom lens, so you want to bundle the light up from here to here and send the light straight forward, so you have more light in the end where you're going to make the photo. That part of the flash isn't as important as you think it is. If you use TTL function, it's automatically gonna make sure that the zoom is in the right place. But if you shoot manually, you have to adjust manually. I never really changed it up. I've put it in the middle. Mostly shoot with the same prime lenses, like a 35-50 millimeters. So why would I change it up? Because I'd never go with a flash higher than 50, even 35. No, I never go higher than 35 when I'm using a flash. So why would I change it up? I always have the same middle function. But if you want to change it up, that's the way to do it. But I look different at it, like everything. I look different at everything. That's the basic thing in my life. I look different at it. If you go wide, you get more spreading of your light. If you go narrow, it's more straightforward. So see it as a soft versus hard light. If you go wide, the light gets softer, especially when you go further away from the camera. So when you're shooting, you want to have more like like a flashy looking photo. You can put your zoom a little bit more forward. If you want to have a photo that more diffuse light, more softer light, you could put it wide. Experiment with it. And I would just use someone to make photos of that person and just put the zoom in different settings so you understand what it does. And that's most of the time when you do with a flash, you make the same photo setting and you make different photos and you remember what the photo, how you shot the photo and what the difference was in your flash setting, so you know and understand what your flash does. It's time for Party Flash. Woo! Party rockers in the house. Okay, I'm not a singer. I'm more like a photographer, but this cool guy here, or girl, or everything in between, is a non-light. I use it a lot for videos, and even when shooting videos of wedding couples, and I'm like, oh, this is a boring party. I need some cool lights in my video. I just grab this, hold it on my camera, and it looks like it's a party, but it's quite boring actually. So don't tell anybody I'm using this to make better videos, because I also do hybrid photo and video. But we're drifting away from the subject, and that's party flash. And party flash, who doesn't like a great party flash photo? I don't shoot a lot of parties, because as a wedding photographer, I like to go away when the party starts, actually, because I'm done. I've been there the whole day, get out of bed at 5 o'clock in the morning, so when the party starts and I can't drink, why should I be there? So normally I'll be there for half an hour, but I want to have great party photos. So but when I do attend a party, I like to have cool party shots. And a party shot is it's actually, if you get it in your fingers, it's very simple. It's about experimenting and daring to do stuff. That's the most important thing about party flash photography. So it's a balance between movement and freezing your frame. Party flash is all about capturing movement and freezing it. And that way you get a very intense, vivid colored party flash photo. You know those streaks of light, you know, when you see a photo and the light's going through and you capture it? That's a perfect party flash photo. And you want to have the subject in the middle, you want to have the person sharp, and you want to have the rest a little bit blurry. So how do we do that? Well, at first you need to understand the shutter. So in this case, your ISO is important. Do we have enough light, of course? So I normally in a party around 1600 ISO, something like that. And the aperture around f4.5, so I have a lot of depth in my photo. So I can play around with my shutter speeds, because you learned you can do high ISO and you can use your shutter or aperture, you can go up as long as you have enough light. So what I do, if I go from 1/60th to 1/80th, then you get very vivid colors, especially 160. If you go to 180 or 105, you get less vibrant colors most of the times because it's too fast with your shutter speed. So if you go 1/60th or 160 or lower, then you get those vibrant colors. So I mostly am between 160 and 125, and if I go to 125, it gets real close to my subject, and I make sure my flash is in the right way. I shoot a photo and just I capture the person in the middle, and the rest around the person is just very blurry, very vivid of color, and that's what I want. But it depends on every location I come, every light setting I come. There needs to be a lot of light around. Isn't enough light, it's very difficult to do. So sometimes I will use this. I just put it on the wall, flashing from behind on a party, and I use this as my own disco light. Let's dive into computers. I can show you what I've done with the party flashes.
Party flash photos. And who doesn't like a great party flash photo? So a lot of examples here for you. And let's start with the old-fashioned work I did, because that was way more extreme than what I do with weddings. This photo is an example of playing with flash. So if you read the photo, that's very important. You see her hands move a little bit, shutter speed, but she still is sharp because I did a really hard flash. So this at night at the fun fair, she's wearing not a lot of stuff, a lot of movement in the photo because this attraction is moving around really quick, so her clothing starts moving. And you see, I'm not afraid of using long shutter speeds. The thing that's important, because I had enough light, so I didn't use high ISO, 125, and I had a hard flash, so I know there's enough light. Always start with a base photo without the flash to check out how the light is, and then fill it up with my flash. What's important, I used a 4.5 aperture because your sharpness is very difficult, so use a bigger aperture number so you get sharpness in the photo. And I think when you're shooting party photos, there only have to be one element have to be sharp, and the element that's important. In this case, her mouth and her face, because we are people, we looking at faces, so that's sharp. So the rest can be unsharp. So forget the whole sharpness in photo. It's all about just a little part in the photo that has to be sharp, and then you're okay. Same here. Her face is sharp. See, her eyes are even sharp, but this all isn't really sharp. I don't mind because it makes a really cool effect. Again, 1/6 of a second, aperture 10. That's really high. Back then I shot very high apertures. I don't do that anymore. A 4.5 is a normal aperture, what I would use. Same here, eyes are sharp and the rest isn't sharp. So when you're shooting party photos, focus on the face. This is a wedding photo, a little bit more behaved, so her face is sharp. That's the only thing that matters in this photo, that her face is sharp. The rest doesn't matter. And the rest moves around. I used 125 of a second, high ISO, 800 and a flash. It looks cool. Same here, this photo, 1/30th of a second, and they are still a little bit sharp, but there's movement and you can clearly see that dancing. So what I would recommend is I would use aperture 4.5 for these kind of photos, and I aim between 125 and 1/80th of a second if you want this kind of photos. If you want to go more bizarre and like a lot of stripes through your photo, tracing, then you get 0.4 of a second of 1/6 of a second. I'm looking for other photos, so same here. 1/50th of a second. His face is sharp, and the only thing in this photo matters that he makes a crazy face, he puts the tongue out. That's important. Rest can be unsharp, makes the photo way more interesting. This party photo again, 1/80th of a second. I wanted to have the right sharp and just like vibrant colors. And I play around. Sometimes I have another 4.5, sometimes I have a 2.8. It very depends on the setting. Here's a party photo of my intern and my colleague. Use 1/25th of a second, 2.8 because she was alone and I could focus with a smaller aperture. Again, when she's moving, I just focus on her face and the rest moves around and her face is sharp. So when you make party photos, put it on 4.5, turn your ISO up like 3200 or 1600 or 6400, depends on light there is. You know from the previous episode, you can crank your ISO up quite high and you see no noise. and just play around with 125 and 180th. And what's important, go close to your subject. If you stand too far away, it will be unsharp or it won't be catching up. You have to be close. All these photos are very close to my subjects. Go close to your subject, flash, and dare to stand close to your subject. That's the most important thing.
We have now covered almost everything about flash techniques. In the next episode, we are going to have more fun by using the flash creatively. All the gear I've used in this episode can be found in the description. My Profoto, even my non-light, everything, even my cameras. I can imagine you have a lot of questions. Feel free to ask them in the comments. Want more photography, post-processing tips or tricks, or take a look behind the scenes? Check out my YouTube channel or my Instagram, because that's where you see my work, actually, a lot of my photography. Don't forget to tag me on Instagram with the flash tag, FlashyRoy, and hope to see you guys in the next video. The last video of this 3-part course.